really what we're here to talk about is just being more in control of your finances, right? It feels better when you're the one making the decisions. And there's a little word game that I like to put up in front of all of my training classes. And there was one that really struck me. And it's right here. So kind of got to put it together, but it's dollars in the bank, right? That's what we're all here for. We want more dollars in the bank. So really when we're talking about financial literacy, there's two different aspects to it that are super important. So we have budgeting and building your credit. So I want you all to kind of do this exercise with me. If we put our hands in front of us and say budgeting is our right hand and credit building is our left, and then clap for me. All right, let's try that again. I'm gonna give a countdown this time. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Now, which hand made the noise? That's right, it's both of them. You can't just be really good at budgeting and ignore your credit. Same vice versa. You can't be really good at building credit and ignore the budgeting side. So today we're going to be focusing on budgeting, building credit, and then some other stuff in between. So to kick us off, we actually have Sandra from Aventa Credit Union, and she is going to be talking about budgeting. There we go. And while we're kind of getting set up here, does anyone know the differences between credit unions and banks? Yep. Go for it. No, this is an interactive class. The more engagement we have, the better.
So credit unions, you are a member,
Mm-hmm.
and banks, you are working for their stockholders. Like your money's working for their stockholders.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So with banks, you have these stockholders and shareholders that they're expecting their money back. They invested in this company. They want that back. At a credit union, you as the member are part owner. So we have a not-for-profit business model where any of those profits, we have to find a way to invest back into the company, into the employees, or most importantly, to our members through dividends, things like that. So Sandra and I are both on the board for the Pikes Peak chapter of credit unions. And this kind of financial literacy topic is what we're really passionate about. And the big takeaway is just get money out of banks. They're going to have fee structures for you. They're going to try and nickel and dime you. Credit unions aren't set up like that. And Sandra, do you want to take it away?
Ready? Sure. How is everybody? Good? Thank you.
Absolutely.
So as Zach said, my name is Sandra Wells. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Aventa Credit Union. I was just talking to Jen, who's going to talk to you in a little bit about some payday lending and things like that. But I've actually been with Aventa Credit Union for over 20 years, which is a little odd to say. I started when I was a wee little. But excited to talk to you guys today because I think some of the things we're going to talk about, I feel like people shy away from because they feel like they're scary topics, or they feel like if they don't have, they're only topics for people with a lot of money or for people with the opportunity or who have a lot of loans or have the opportunity to get loans. And I think those are common myths. And so I love being able to talk about it because here's the things we're going to talk about, the secrets that we're going to share today are the secrets that everybody gets. Like whether you're starting with, your first job and your first money coming in or the first birthday check or $20 from grandma or $5 or whatever that is. Or, you've been around a little bit and you're making some monies and you've got some, these are all secrets that, are not held for just a special group of people. They're for everybody. So super excited to share some things with you guys. So what's your first thought when I start talking about budgeting? Truth. Cut back, right? Right? Stick to it. I love it. Some of you are smiling like you get really excited. You think they're fun. Okay. I love that. I don't. I mean, I know it's important, but I like, and initially I wasn't like, woo, budgeting. So you had something here. Tracking. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, in your guys' little folder, there is this piece of paper. So Zach said interactive. So I want you guys to take this out for me, if you wouldn't mind. And on that first area that says, what is your why? I would like you guys to write down, what would you do if you knew you could? What would you buy? What would you plan? If you knew you had the funds for it, if you knew you could do it, what would you do? I want you to write that down. So you guys are still writing. I like it. You guys got it? Still writing? This guy's got some ideas. Right here, right? They're good ones, yeah? Yeah. All right, so I talked about this. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about budgeting. A lot of times people think, again, it's only for individuals who make a lot of money. It's only for individuals who have a financial planner. It's only for people who are really good at math, right? It's only for people who can afford really cool budgeting things that, track all the details for you. But the thing is about budgeting that I really think it's important is that budgeting is about knowing. And when you know things, this is learning 101, right? The more you know, the more you control, the more you understand, the more you get to make decisions about your future, your life, the things you want. And that's all budgeting is, right? So again, the things that, go ahead, Zach. Sorry, I didn't know I had somebody back here to do it for me. You can hit it again. So again, a lot of times budgeting can be overwhelming. Because some people already know they're in the red at the end of the month. That's not always fun to track that and remind yourself that that's where you're at, right? Some people feel like they don't have the right tools and resources. They don't make enough. They don't have the time to do it. But I like to think of why not? Because again, when we know what's coming in and what's going out, and that's all budgeting is, then we get to make conscious decisions and be in the know and control our finances. Then they no longer are scary, they don't control us, and we get to decide what we want to do and how we're going to get there with our finances. And that's really all it's about. So the why not? Again, these are things that maybe we want. Maybe we want an emergency fund. We need to eat. We want to eat out. We want to be able to gift or give an inheritance. We want to go to college, send our kids to college, buy a home, car, things we love, plan for future purchases. Those are all the things that we get to do when we know what's coming in and what's going out and we control it. So it's simple. I promise, simple. So what is budgeting? How does it work? Again, knowing what's coming in and what's going out. So, we're going to do this together a little bit. So really, what do you have coming in? And that's all household income, right? And I think one thing that's really important about budgeting is it's not just what you get paid. It's what you are actually bringing in to the household, right? Because we have these things called taxes that we have to pay. And so, you always get your check or you get told what you're going to make, what you're going to get paid, and then you get your actual check to you and what goes into the bank seems a lot less. Sometimes cringe-worthy, right? But it's a thing. So it's really important that we are counting the actual dollars that come in to the household, because those are the dollars that we have to track going out as well. All right. So again, things that you have going out. You'll notice that the first thing on this list, which is the biggest takeaway for you guys right now, that I want for you guys and that we want for you, is it's about paying yourself. Paying yourself first. It's that what you wrote down, what would you do if you knew you could? That's what this is all about. So that you get to control the money that's going in and the money that's going out, so that you pay yourself first. So when you're budgeting, you need to budget you. You need to budget you first. Whatever that looks like, whatever you can afford to do, you should put your first focus on you and what goes towards you and what you want for your future when it comes to your finances. So yourself, any gifting, tithing, mortgage, rent, car payment, utilities, insurance, food, groceries, phone, entertainment. You guys, a lot of you, when they talk about nutrition or exercising or all of those kind of things, it's all about the tracking, right? It's all about the details. It's all about the little things that we don't realize that we're spending money on. And so when we start to track that and understand those little pieces that are going out, we really have a much better understanding and control over our finances and over our budget. Looks small. All right. So this is how this works. I'm sorry that's coming to you so small. But I just took basically what they say Colorado's average annual salary is, and I broke that down into the monthly income, what actually comes in. So let's say you make around $56,000 a year. Your monthly income, what's actually coming into your household, again, with all that other stuff taken out, is about $3,700 a month. So those are the numbers we're going to work with. And then you start breaking down. So this is basically budgeting, right? We write down our income, what's actually coming in, and then we're going to start tracking all the things that are going out. So we start tracking, again, yourself first. So let's say you're giving yourself $200 a month. Your rent is $1,500 a month. Your utilities, $165. Groceries, gas, car payment, insurance, entertainment. Again, entertainment is all the things you like to do outside of the required bills. They're the, roller skating or bowling or all of those fun things. And then childcare. So all of those things, and you may have many more, you may have less. Everybody has a different list, but you're going to take your income and then you're just going to start breaking down all of your expenses that you have. So you guys have in your, on that same sheet of paper, not going to have you list all of your expenses, right? But this is a good start for you. This is how easy it is. You can take a piece of paper, write down your income, what you believe you're actually bringing into the household. And then in your expense, you notice I've already put you first. So I want you to put next to the you how much you want to pay yourself a month. And whether that's monthly, quarterly, annually, and then write your next first top 5 expenses that you have coming out a month. You guys are diving right in. I love it. It's okay. It's okay. It helps to know, right? And then you know the changes you can make and where you need to maybe cut. How many of you guys do budgets already? Awesome. Right? How many of you stick to your budget already? No, I'm just kidding. I know, right? I know. They're like, oh, I get this expensive stick. Well, and I think that's the important thing too, is really thinking through when you start tracking and you do it for several months at a time, you start to realize there are pieces and areas where you may be missed and you could control and you could sort of plan for, so that you're not all of a sudden at the end of the month going, oh man, that's not looking great, right? All right. How many in your budgeting actually have a line item for yourself? I like it. I like it. Well, that's okay. Right. It was planning, right? All right. All right. So, and how this works out is you basically take what's coming in, and you guys know this, you were already doing this. You basically take what's coming in, actually coming in, what's going out, and you get a number. With the numbers that I ran, we're green $45. We're in the green. That's good. Doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's red, and then sometimes you got to look and say, okay, for right now, I may have to pay myself a little bit less, but I would say that sometimes it's better to look at the other areas you can cut, because really, when you do put yourself first when it comes to your finances, in the end, it typically works out to the good and to the better for you and to your whole household. All right, so the best tip that I ever heard, and I'm telling you, this is the secret, just start. So we talked about paying yourself first. We talked about, there are two sides of finances, but I think the one thing is that if you just get started, it can be $5 a month that you pay yourself. It can be $10 a month that you pay yourself. It can be $15. If you get in the habit of doing it, especially now, early, like if you start teaching your kids to do that, it makes a huge difference and the money adds up fast. So I'm going to show you, if we just take an example where you simply commit to paying yourself $50 a month, you're going to start with a $50 investment, and then you're going to add to it for the next 12 months, $50 alone, and you put it into a savings account. And then you can do that with Air Academy. You can do that with Aventa Credit Union. Average interest rate out there for regular savings is about 2.4%. So the cool thing is, us credit unions, we pay you for paying yourself. So over a year, $50 a month, you're going to have over $650 in a savings account. Pretty good, right? And I will tell you, the interest rates right now on both sides are going up, which is a benefit to you when you're paying yourself, because they're well above 2.5%, right? Zach, yeah. So we're talking in the threes and the fours and the fives. So if you can put some money aside now, you're really going to benefit. So let's take the same example, and you commit to a $100 investment, $100 a month for the next 12 months. You're going to have over $1,300. So how far would that go towards your first thing that I had you write on that sheet, which is basically your why? Why do you want to budget? Why do you want to pay yourself? Go a pretty long way. I think. So you don't have to start big. You don't have to go big all the time. It's just a matter of knowing that you and your finances in your household are that important, and that it's important to know what's coming in, what's going out, and that you're paying yourself. And we pay you to pay yourself. So, things to remember. Pay yourself first. That's basically you deciding to prioritize you and your family and the things that are important to you. Keep it simple. You don't need a bunch of really cool tools and resources, although they're out there. I know there are tons of fun budgeting apps. There are gaming apps. I know that Zach and Air Academy have some really cool financial fun tools. We have some really cool products and services to help you save. Ours, basically, when you spend, you save. So, we basically pay you to spend, which is kind of a cool thing. You could talk to me after about that. Really fun, but really cool things out there, but it can be simple. So keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it, because when you do, you don't stick to it and it becomes just too much to handle, too much to manage. And then be in the know, because when you know what you have coming in and going out, you're in control of it. Not everybody else, not all the other bill collectors, not everybody else. You get to be in control of your money going in and going out. You guys are geniuses at budgeting, right? All right. Questions? We have time for questions. Questions? No. And honestly, I know this is not a great answer, but to me, I was even doing the math. Like, if you can even start teaching your child to put, $1 away a month, $5 a month. It's the habit that you're getting into. And you guys know this. Once you start to see the dollars add, it gets fun. Right? And it actually gets a little bit challenging when you go to spend that. You kind of think twice, because when the dollars are smaller, you're like, right? But when you start to see it build, it becomes this like, I don't want to touch it. I want to leave it. So I'd say any amount. If you can convince them to take in, there are a lot, and you guys can help me with this. A lot of people say 10%. Like, if you're giving them an allowance, you just teach them to put 10% of that allowance aside. But my thing is any amount, $1 a month, $5 a month, and starting early is really, really important. I'm not going to be the only one who answers this. I'm going to let Zach also answer this. I'm going to answer my way. I think it depends, and it's up to you. I think it's one of the things that, for example, when we're talking to individuals who are looking to purchase a home, especially first-time buyers, it's up to you. What is your lifestyle like? How do you want your lifestyle to be? If you're a person who wants to be in a home, buy a home, and still be able to do a lot of the things that you're already doing, that conversation and that amount may be very different than somebody who's willing to basically say, I'm just going to have my house. I'm not going to do all the outside things until I start to build and be able to save. Does that make sense? And then sometimes, you're controlled by the environment. You don't even get to control the amount that you're spending towards housing. So, I'm sorry. Housing costs. So Colorado Springs is high, right? We're in an environment where we don't get to control a lot. If you're looking to purchase, it's a little bit harder of an environment just because the housing cost is so high to either purchase or to rent. Rent is high here. So some of that can control how much that you're putting aside. So I'm going to let I don't know if you have a different take on that, Zach, or...
It's about the same answer. Like, I could tell you from the underwriting side, they're looking for about 45% of your debt to income, but it's really about what you can afford and what you want out of your home. And the environment, that hit it spot on. Like, house prices are soaring here. It's so difficult. We don't have control over that, right? Good luck finding any house under $300,000 here, anywhere in the city. I'm right there with you, trust me.
It can happen. You can make it happen, but yeah. And yes, the 45%, like debt to income is typically what they look at.
And I just wanted to add in on your previous comment, Sandra, Aisha, for your kids that you're saving, I really loved how you hit on that. Don't save for your kids. Help show them how to save, because that's going to instill that habit into their lives as well and set them up for success later on down the road. And the reality is, if we weren't in here doing it, schools don't have these topics. So it's really on you guys as the parents and looking for these kind of events where we can come in and help out and help give you that knowledge.
Schools they do anymore. Actually, both my kids' high schools, they have financial.
Nice. Okay.
Good. They call it personal finance.
Good.
That's amazing. Yeah. What else? Any other questions before we kind of move into our next section? All right. Before I hand it off to Jen, I did want to give a shout out to Lil Howard's Barbecue for feeding us all tonight. So if we can get a round of applause for them. They are downtown on East Moreno, so definitely check them out if y'all liked your food today. And Jen Luthi here is one of our financial engagement coaches. She's actually certified to talk about budgeting and finances. And we're going to talk a little bit on payday lending.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Like I said, I'm a certified financial engagement coach. So I do this all the time with my members. They come in, we sit down, we talk about their budgeting, we talk about credit building, which Zach will go into credit building in a little bit. But something I know some about, because I've used them before in my past myself, is payday lending. So payday loans, you can go to the next slide. They are short-term, high-interest loans. In reality, a payday lender wants to be paid back within 2 weeks of doing a payday loan. Most of the time, that is not the case. On average, it takes 5 months to pay one of those off. And when we're talking about if you miss a payment, those interest rates are going to soar even more. Garnishment can happen. So many different things. You're going to get more overdraft fees from your institution that you're already with. It could add on additional interest and other fees that they're not showing you. So I kind of want to break this down. I want you to see it. So on my next slide, what I have, go ahead. Let's say we're doing a $500 payday loan. So I've got this broken down into 4 months. So in 2 weeks, in interest alone, you're going to pay $46.25, which in total, if you can pay that off, you're sitting at $546.25. But as that continues to grow, the more you're going to pay in interest. So let's say within 2 months, you're still paying. Our interest is now sitting at $183.59. So that loan has become $500 to $683.05. And let's say we go even further. Let's say we're hitting 4 months and we can't quite pay it off yet. Something happens. Emergencies do happen. And you decide to refinance that loan. So you're refinancing on a $500 loan. You've already put in $863.39 by the end of 4 months. Cash-wise, you're going to see another $250 in cash. Zach, will you go to the next slide, please? So now your new loan is $750. And that continues to grow. Our interest rate stays the same because they just had you refinance. With still the low interest, but let's say within 1 month when that straight and 27 cents. We're now sitting at over $1,000 is what you paid. If you go and don't get that 4-month mark, so in 8 months, a $500 loan that you originally needed has now costed $122.44. Payday loans are meant for you to keep refinancing. They get you in this circle and they want you to keep going. There are other options out there besides those payday loans. If anybody ever have any questions, come see me over at Air Academy. I'm sure Aventa's got things as well. But you don't want in that trap because it is. Any questions?
This is first sort of probably attack or something that found is phenomenal. Decided to favor on and that took over different.
So different states have different caps. Interest rate in California could be 139%. 39%. Payday loan in it for the money. Then we have states that your interest rates can't be over higher than 38%. It all depends on where you're located. Even 38% is fairly high, especially when you're looking at credit cards, and those are the highest is usually around 27, 28%. So that question there is a little bit harder to answer because it really depends on where you're located. That is why also some states have made it to the point where they are illegal. They can't even do them anymore. Colorado is not one of those states. But I know like military families cannot do them. But yeah, the interest rates, you can see them anywhere from 600 to 800% in interest alone.
Where do they start before you do your grade? First.
Yeah.
Wow. So how investigate helpful? Because you know that like I've been meditating on how to. I call myself the queen of South Nevada. The land will understand. And so back in Iowa test, it's just
they're out there to prey on people who don't know. And I will tell you, when I did mine, like you said, I've done this. I did not know. I was in a situation and I needed cash right then and there. So it's when you fall and you need that cash right now because something happens, sometimes that's the only option that you might have or that you think you might have. But I'm here to tell you that there are other options out there. Some do, some don't. So it all depends. Some payday loan places will run your credit score. If you don't have a certain credit score, you will not get one. Others will not run your credit score. And you can find both out there. And we have both in Colorado. Any other questions?
Cool. Thank you, Jen. I wish I had a mirror for everyone so y'all could see your own faces as you were like seeing these numbers, you know? Because it's shocking, right? And Aisha, you hit on it. There is something called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It doesn't regulate these right now. Yep. And just to kind of put this into perspective, you're saying 38% you've seen like loans around there for payday lenders?
Yeah. Percent is average.
Yeah. I was going to say like 30 to 40% is about their average daily interest rate. Daily interest rate. Yeah. Please stay away from payday lenders. Come talk to your credit unions. We have better solutions for you. We have similar programs that instead of this structure, you can get like up to $1,000 and you pay one $32 fee as compared to this where it's $363 in interest and fees you're paying. We've got other ones where it's like $6 to $12 of interest over the course of it. I'm sure Aventa has similar products. Just go talk to your local credit unions. We have solutions Aisha, you hit it perfectly. They're not here to help. They're here to take advantage of you when you're in a desperate spot.
Do you credit unions?
We do. Yep. So credit unions do home loans, and I'm going to kind of shamelessly plug Air Academy's first-time homebuyer program, because you can do as little as 1%, 2%, or 3% down, and there is no primary mortgage insurance, which I won't get super far into that. It just makes your whole mortgage more expensive, and none of it's going towards yourself, your value, or your equity.
I guess this is that related to this professor. But how do you decide how much someone gets for a home loan if they don't put down money?
So normally with home loans, you have to put something down. And I can't really speak to the underwriting side because there's a lot of different factors involved with both your income, your credit scores, whatever that situation is. So that's really going to be an individual based question. Yeah. Absolutely.
Do the CHAPA class, even if you're not trying to do a mortgage right now, and it'll go over all that stuff. CHAPA and CHFA. So,
Yep. What
it's on. They have online classes or they have in-person classes all over town. Because I had to do that to get my mortgage, and they go over all that stuff in there.
Absolutely. What else we got? Like I said, it's interactive class. We got questions. I'm not going to just have you all hold your questions to the end. So I'm about to dive into credit building, which I know is everyone's favorite topic, right? They're supposed to have something there, not just like that silence. All right. So if there's nothing else before we hop in, inside y'all's packets, you should have a little handout here that we're going to go through and fill out together. So the first part on here, it says there are blank major credit bureaus. Does anyone know the answer to that one? 3. That is correct. There's a 4th one, but they don't really count. You know, it's just kind of off to the side. Who knows what they are? Experian. I heard Equifax over here. TransUnion. So that's supposed to be on this next line here. So Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, I wish that I had the secret sauce that I could say, this is exactly how your credit score is calculated. It is super complex, and you have to be like a PhD in math just to understand all those calculations. So instead, we're going to talk about some habits and some general principles that can help you build better credit. Now, has anyone ever had that where you go and you pull your credit in one place and then you pull it somewhere else and they're 2 different scores? Anyone know why that is?
That everybody reports saw.
So I heard not everyone reports everything. What was that, sir?
One of them is not updated history.
Yeah, that could be it. There's a lot of different answers to this question. So first of all, we've got our 3 different bureaus. I'm sorry, ma'am. What was that? Yeah, that you're actually hitting really close to it right there. They all have different criteria. So we have our 3 different credit bureaus. Each one of them probably has about 5 to 10 different models that they use, which is just a fancy way to say, in one place, they're going to say an auto loan payment is going to be worth more points than a credit card payment. It just depends on what that lender is focused on. So like, for example, at Air Academy, we do a lot of auto loans. So if you have missed payments on your auto loans, that's going to hit you harder on our credit report than a missed payment on a credit card. And then also getting into that, some credit bureaus will have all of your payments reporting to them, others won't. So it's definitely something to check in on. And I'm actually going to give you all a website for where you can pull it for free, sponsored by the government, so that you know it's like your credit and it's safe. But when we're talking about this, the first category here is payment history. And this is extremely small. So when I say payment history, it's going to be how many payments are reporting to your credit. So if you only have one credit card, that's only one payment. But if you have a credit card, an auto loan, a home loan, that's now 3 payments that are reporting to your credit. So you're hitting positive credit history 3 more times every month. Also with that, it's looking at, were those payments made on time? Were they delinquent? Were they late? What's going on there? Now, when I say delinquent on your loan payments, does anyone know how many days delinquent you have to be before it's showing to your credit report? 31 days. Super close. 30 days. Yeah, on the 31st day it will show. So that's where a lot of people will think, oh, I'm 10 days past due, I'm 1 day past due. It's 30 days where it's going to start reporting to your credit score. So that is our first myth here, that at the bottom here, we've got a whole list of myths. The first one is late payments show immediately once you miss that payment. It takes 30 days for that. It's not immediate. So if we're thinking about that payment history, I've got 4 different categories here. I've got 35%, 30, 15, and then 2 10s. Just by a show of hands here, who thinks payment history is 10% of your credit score makeup? 15? 30. Got a couple 30s? 35. All right, not everyone participated, but 35. I was like, counting numbers here. 35% is your payment history. So that's the biggest section of this pie. You really want to make sure that you're having those payments that are reporting on time. And now I'm not going to go out and say, go get a bunch of credit cards so that you have more payments on here. But it might help. I'm not saying to not do it either. Just saying your situation is going to depend on that. Also, never will I say, go get a bunch of credit cards and spend money on them and max them out. That is the bad behavior. So, all right, let's dig in. Questions? Yes.
Do you get credit for payment if you don't spend any money on the credit card?
That is a great question. You do get credit for an on-time payment, even if your balance is paid off on that credit card. Now, that is something you want to double check because they are mandated to do that. Some places don't have systems that are updated. It's pretty good now, but I have seen some where they're not doing it every month. And Serge, you have another question?
How long will I have to pay on time to see a credit?
Great question. It's kind of impossible to answer because it just depends on your situation. So what I mean by that is, like, if you start on that lower end, maybe around 600, 640 credit score, it's a lot easier to jump from 600 to 680 than it is to go from 680 to 700. There's just a lot more history that's going to be required as you're getting higher in those credit scores.
So this guessing maybe about a year or 3 or 4. We're talking 5 for flight.
I think we would have to meet separately for me to answer that question, honestly. But we're willing to do that. That is something we'll talk about at the end for you. Another question?
Give us like some resources of people that
Yes.
need, because I have stuff that's really something you paid for, or you did pay over 7 years ago, then they resell it to another elector. I don't know. That's legal, right? But is it?
It is legal. It is kind of a gray area. But yes, we do have those resources. And I'll just talk about it now since we're on the topic. At Air Academy, we have a whole financial counseling program that we offer. It is free for anyone. You don't even have to be a member. Jen is one of our certified financial counselors, so you can go and talk with her. We've got about 30 of them on staff at Air Academy. And we can dig into all of that, look at credit scores, kind of give you your own plan and coaching to help build that credit score.
They also let you with the party. I guess I need somebody. Letters, is there somebody?
We can't do that side of it so much because that starts to get into like the legal advice side. So you may have to go through some kind of like attorney for that. We can help give you the tools and resources and kind of point you in the right directions to do some of that work. But we aren't like the name is escaping me, debt consolidation agency. We can do debt consolidation loans, but two completely different things there. Yep.
So that's why, like, years. So, I know this is Steve.
Yeah. Buffer.
I don't want us to follow as Daphne.
I still was in credit side. I don't think anybody was saying anything about that about it. So when I or two of the together and the band you have to use it, but you don't have to use it. But you don't have to pass it out. But you have to use it. So what I did was use it for things that I actually got the gas. You know you're running the gas, so put it on there. And then you already know you're gonna have the money for gas, so you can pay that off medium. And that helps of it. And with security credit cards, put the money down first and sell. And I know they report, and like that's like a 6-month pay as in Gold Street. Yeah, my word is too. I got a U.S. Bank secured card, and it because I had never had a credit card before, and it made my credit shoot from 430. Is that like a recall of my credit?
Yep.
To like a 5.
Yeah, so that's a lot of why I can't say, like, it's going to take you this long to get this many points back because, you know, you handle one of those collections, your score could jump up like 10, 20, 100 points even. It just really depends on what's going on your credit and your situations. I had a friend that he had 2 or 3 collections reporting to him without really anything positive. Like, he had one credit card that was like $250. He paid off those 2 collections and his score jumped like 80 points. So it just really is depending on that situation. And just to recap the conversation over there, just for anyone at home here, we are going to give you, the website is called annualcreditreport.com. I'm going to show you what the landing page looks like at the end of the presentation, just so you know you're on the right source. When you pull your credit through there, you're going to see all of the trade lines or the credit that you've taken out, credit cards, all of those things. And you can dispute directly through that site.
What's the turnaround time once you dispute? I think of long time or that fall off?
So technical question, they have to respond, I believe it's within 60 or 90 days to your dispute, but that just means they have to acknowledge it and initiate the claim. It could take months up to years sometimes, depending on which company it's with. And that's why I would say stay on top of them. If you haven't heard anything in a month or 2, call them again. Call them until you annoy them enough that they're just like, just pay this off and have them stop contacting me. Yes. Yep. If they do not respond within a certain time, they have to take it off. So I'm just reiterating for the microphone and the people at home here.
That's because I know I have the common laws. I mean, you just saw the dispute.
How can medical bills destroy your credit?
Very good topic. So question is, how can medical bills destroy your credit? It's because medical billing is not set up to collect money from you, and they don't try very hard. I have a great story around this, actually. I went in and had to get an x-ray for my shoulder. I thought I had dislocated it, and I gave him my insurance card that had my dad on it. I was still under his insurance at the time. Well, my dad and my grandpa are seniors and juniors. My grandpa was part of that hospital's network, so they just searched the name and went, oh, it must be him. and charged all of it to my grandpa's insurance. Never contacted me at any of the information I left for them, only tried to contact my grandfather, and then sent me to collections without ever talking to me. Medical bills are real. They happen. That's not really a reflection on you. Honestly, when we look at it, it's like, oh, medical stuff happened. Because you can't control that, right? You get sick, you have to go to the hospital. You have to get that treatment. So we kind of view medical bills with a grain of salt when we see those on the collection side.
I got all mind waived when I got my mortgage. My financer was able to write it all up, explain it all, but the underwriters didn't take that under consideration. That's a thing too. So it might not, just because your credit score looks so low with your medical stuff, doesn't mean that that's necessarily what the underwriter is going to calculate you at.
Yeah, absolutely.
None of the things are the wrong way. It's just, it's like the part of your Tuesday.
Yeah. What did that be actually? They expect. They pay on the fact. I was pressed poorly.
World is with that.
But if you hard to pull, I've had it. Okay, like this. And
Yeah, absolutely. Just be more aware, be in control, contact people, communicate with them. It's going to go a long way. All right, I'm going to keep us moving because we got a little bit more to get through, but I do love the questions. So if more come up, let's dig in. But the next section I want to talk about is amounts owed. And this can get really complicated. But to keep it simple, when we talk about loans, there are two different types of loans. We have our closed-ended and we have our open-ended loans. So our closed-ended are going to be like our auto loans, our mortgages. If it has an end date, once you pay that off, it's done. That's a closed-ended loan. So if you pay it off and it's closed-ended, anyone know what an open-ended loan might be? Yep, revolving credit. It's our credit cards, line of credits. It's also something called the HELOC. It stands for home equity line of credit. It's like when you loan against what value you have in your house to maybe pay for some other trip, or maybe you're doing an add-on to the house, something like that. So when we're talking about amounts owed, it's looking into how much do you have on a mortgage, on an auto loan, on credit cards. Because, you know, if you have $80,000 in car loans, that's a lot of money in car loans. You're probably getting luxury vehicles, all of that. But if you have $120,000 and you have a mortgage in there, that's really not that much because your mortgage is taking up so much of that. So amounts owed is looking at what types and the amounts that you have under them. Now, the next one here is called utilization, which is just a funny way of saying how much do you have available versus how much you've used. So that's where a lot of people can get in trouble with credit cards because everyone's like, go get a low limit credit card. Get this card for $500. How many people in here can get through the month on $500? No one, right? You'd be lucky if you can get out of the grocery store $200-$300, right? So what utilization is looking at is if you go and spend $300 on the grocery store, and I'm going to change my amounts because I'm not that good at math, and we say $1,000, you have 30% utilized on your revolving credit. We want to keep that number. A good amount is about 20%. We only want to use 20% of what we have in credit cards actually charging it up. It's still okay if you're around 50%, but once you're beyond 50% used up on that line, it's going to start counting against you. So let's do this again. Show of hands. Who thinks that one's 10%? 15? Got some 15s, 30%. All right, it is 30%. I'm gonna have to mix this up because it's pretty obvious what my pathway is now, right? So another piece that this looks at too is if you have cards that are over limit, this is gonna kill you. That over limit hurts a lot on your credit score. So just be wary of those. We want to keep them about 50%, if not lower. If you're over limit, we want to get those knocked down right away. So to be over limit would be like, I have a $500 credit card. The balance that you have on it is more than $500. It can happen in a lot of different ways, either through fees, interest being accumulated, things like that. It's where people that, have those credit cards, you make that minimum payment and you're like, cool, I've got 14 more bucks to spend. Those are people that might fall into that over limit category. And a common myth behind this one is people say, once you pay off a credit card, close it. Don't do that. That can actually hurt your credit score more. Because it's good to have that credit card out there that's paid off and still reporting good payments to your credit score. And if you close it, now suddenly you don't have this credit limit factoring into your revolving available. So you take that $1,000 away, now that utilization is lower. Or utilization is higher, sorry. So what questions do we have around that one? I feel like I just talked for a long time.
Impacts. Is it further that? Is it like a big impact?
Which part?
Cut up the paid off credit for. It might.
Okay, so two very different things there. Because cutting up a credit card does not close it. You want to cut up a credit card because you don't trust yourself to spend on that? Go for it. Closing it, it's hard to say, again, how much that's going to impact you. I would just keep them open unless they have annual fees. If they have annual fees, get out because you don't want to pay that money towards the credit card company. What else? Yeah.
I'm just getting in Colorado, where I from, there is no such of credit.
Yes.
So, to build credit, you have to get credit.
Yes. It is.
After that,
Yep.
out of credit.
It's like a paradox, right? You have to spend money to build your credit, to say that I'm good at paying back my loans and you should loan me money.
Not just spend money, get credit.
Mm-hmm.
Spend money, pay credit to get credit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, when my husband and I, our first few years being married, his name was on everything, the house, the car, everything. And so I had no credit score. When we were trying to move, they said you'll get a better interest rate if I had a credit score. So I did the secured credit card and I just had it auto pay my internet bill. And I didn't use it for anything else and it auto withdrew. So then all of a sudden I went from no credit score to a really good credit score. So I spent $30 a month that I was putting on my credit card every month and paying it off every month. So it wasn't much of a burden. It didn't hurt to have to take fire money, but I was just borrowing $30 a month and then paying back 30, borrowing 30 and paying back.
the amount. It's just that you have to get credit. You have to do something.
For the most part, yes. It's just the amounts can get into some of it on the back end, but just for general principles, any positive history is going to help you. Yep.
Is there other ways to build credit besides credit card from the?
Yeah, it was reading my mind.
I thought I read someone gave me Dave Ramsey book, and I read the first two chapters after the credit first come. But I thought in the book he says don't have credit cards. Credit cards are bad. But I did read the book though.
But you'd have to finish the rest of the book on that because it says that's after you're already financially independent. So you already had your house. You're already at a point in your life where you can pay your cars in cash. You already have a retirement fund already set up. So you have to finish. Yeah. That he talks you through in the book, because I did the Dave Ramsey stuff. He talks you through the book of how to get yourself for being dependent on credit and establishing where you don't have to worry about credit. So yeah, it goes over that in the last end of the book.
And I'll also say, don't take Dave Ramsey as gospel. It works for some people. It's not a bad system. I don't use his system, and it's totally fine because it doesn't work for me. We got to figure out what works for each of you individually. The whole sticking cash in envelopes and squirreling it away, I am way too digital for that. That is never going to work for me.
That's what I found. Great furniture. They're not the best idea, but I'm just saying, anything that requires credit, you know what I'm saying? Even if you, had to, you went to errands because you needed to get a washing machine, you know what I'm saying? So something that you're going to use, and then might be needed. Pay out the way, or I'm looking forward to credit cards and stuff. It's a sneaky way of doing it, but doesn't it? There's kind of something to do that's not credit card. Yeah.
It is. However, it is also a credit card. Usually what those department stores that hold 0% financing, they're going to come in and put you into a credit card that's going to have 0%, which is actually something that you need to look out for in this amounts owed category, because what they're going to do is go, $3,000 bed, let's call it. We're going to open a credit card for $3,005 and put the $3,000 bed on there. And now if we think back to our utilization, we just opened a card and maxed it out right away. That's going to look bad on your score.
And not only that,
Yes.
after card, how did that code it has the amount of time that can have a big credit, and the card input that may also help pay for. So if you have a card that can be credit down scanning, don't close that account, because when you have it, the account and pay, it'll show the
Uh-huh. Yep.
close to a 50. Should have
It's okay, now we know. And if you think back to it, payment history is our highest category, right? In that scenario where you have that whole year, you now have 12 payments that are reporting for you. Also, do you need a job?
That's going to go house, but my things don't listen to these. But
All right, so let's move on to our next one here, which is our length of history, which kind of ties back into this whole credit card conversation. And when we say length of history, we're talking about what is that first thing that you did to start your credit history. So what I tell people a lot is, as soon as you turn 18, go get a credit card and never close it. Because now that credit card is going to be the oldest length of history thing that you have. Now let's take this scenario. Say you open this credit card at 18, you go through, you get an auto loan when you're 25, you get a mortgage when you're 27. You close that credit card, that length of history comes up to whatever the next newest thing or oldest thing was. So when you bought that car, that's going to be the one that's reporting. So that's another reason we don't necessarily want to close credit cards just because we pay them off. Yes, ma'am.
Quite far. I don't close it. I just have it there.
Mhm.
Would that have any?
It would. So just having the credit card, even if you don't have a balance on it, it's still reporting to your credit as a paid item. So that's building your credit. That's good. Yep. Absolutely. All right, so I won't do the whole exercise because I think y'all get it at this point. Length of history is 15%. of how our credit score is made up. And then another myth behind this one is, everyone's like, oh, if you check my credit, it's going to hurt me. It doesn't necessarily hurt you just to have your credit pulled. Now, if you have somewhere that's going to go, let's say you pull it here, you go down the road and pull it over there, you go try and get a credit card at 3 different places, that's going to start to look bad because it's called credit-seeking behavior. It's when you have a lot of inquiries within a short amount of time. Now, sometimes it's normal. Like if you go to a dealership, they might send your loan application to 5 different places all at the same time. We can look at that and say, oh, this is all done in the same day. But if it's, this credit card, that credit card, this auto loan, that's really going to start hurting your credit score if you have all those inquiries at the same time. And you all can pull, like I was saying earlier, from annualcreditreport.com once per year from all 3 of the major credit bureaus at no cost, and it does not affect your credit, your score.
Do credit card loan that to show?
You can. I'm personally not a big fan of Credit Karma. It is a good service. I will just say that outright. They just try and direct you towards their subscription models, paying for the service, all of those things. So I tend to not recommend people to Credit Karma because you shouldn't have to pay for this. It's your credit. You can get it for free. Now, it doesn't tell you your score on this report, but it's going to show you every item that reports.
Credit Karma could be like, sure. Credit Karma could be off like 40, 50 points too.
Yeah.
It could be off quite a bit, depending on what, like if you're going for a mortgage or a car versus just like a credit card, like it can be way off.
Yep. Again, back to that, everyone has different models that they use and different agencies. I really wish I had the answer to all these questions. It's just sometimes it can be so confusing. Oh, you're good. I get grilled every time I do this presentation. Don't worry.
What about student loans, especially for?
Yeah, student loans are another loan type that will report. They're considered an unsecured loan, and it's just like a personal loan. The legislations on the back end of them are a little bit different. Basically, you can't escape a student loan through bankruptcies or anything else. They can put garnishments on there. So they're very similar to loans. There's just a little bit more that they can do to get the money back. And I had the question here earlier. I didn't address it at the time, but the only way to really build credit is through loans, credit cards, things like that. There's a lot that can hurt your credit that is not part of that. For example, like your phone bill, your internet, all of that, those contracts that you sign and the 10 pages of disclosures that we all definitely read, that stuff can put you into affecting your credit score.
What do you follow is that the big overpayment on your, say you have like $25 in your fake account and you spend $30 as overdraft fee. Did you have the overdraft?
They do not. Now, they could if they get charged off and it's a collection item, but it's not going to report that like you paid that. Same thing with like leases for rental apartments, things like that. That one is changing, but I haven't seen many places that will report just.
You need to worry about race off over seconds.
So some apartment complexes are starting to report like your monthly rent payment to them as your payment history, but it's very few and far between. It's not many. All right. So we got 2 more categories. Each of them are going to be 10%. So the next one is called credit mix. And we kind of hit on this earlier when we talked about that revolving versus, or open-ended versus closed-ended credit. So credit mix just says you have a good mixture of open-ended and closed-ended cards or credit, And on that, you have different types such as auto, mortgage, credit cards, things like that. So what might be bad, to just kind of give an example of this, if all you have is credit cards, it's not going to be as good for you as if you have credit cards and a few other things mixed in there. So credit mix is basically just looking at, do you have a good mixture of closed and open-ended lines of credit? So if you have, let's say, I'll give you a different example, 3 different auto loans, that's not going to look as good as if you have 2 auto loans and a credit card. Now, it's not much, so keep that in mind. This one's only 10% of the makeup, so you don't have to like break yourself trying to fit this category. It's just to know in the back of your mind, these are some habits that I can get into, some things that I can do and change about my credit to build it. Absolutely.
Earlier category. When you were saying don't close your credit cards because of the history and all that, what happens if you close a HELOC? Does that impact you in a similar way or no?
It can. So again, the question was, what happens when you close a HELOC, which is that home equity line of credit? So you have this house that you bought, you started to pay it down a little bit, but hey, I want to do a remodel. You take out a HELOC to buy or to spend for that. It would fall into that revolving. So if you have a bunch of credit card debt and then suddenly you close the HELOC and you don't have all of that available, it's going to fall into that utilization. Yeah. I doubt that your HELOC is going to be like the first thing that you open, so it shouldn't affect length of history too much. And then our final one here, and I actually start with the myth because this is the one that I hear the most, and it's getting any new credit is going to hurt my credit score. And I call it a myth. It's kind of true a little bit, but people blow it out of proportion. Because what's really saying on this one is if you get a new credit card, what's really impactful is the first couple of payments on it, because that establishes your history and kind of your patterns. So if you get a new credit card and then you miss the first 3 payments on you, yes, this one might ruin you. But just missing or opening anything new, it might cost you 5 to 10 points. But then as you start paying on it and you get that positive history, it's going to outweigh and make up for those points. Yes, sir.
Getting that new credit card, or let's say it's a $500 limit on it, and I spend $450, that's going to affect my credit because I went over this. What was that percentage again that you don't want to go over?
So 50% is kind of that mark to have in your head that you really don't want to go over that.
Go bowling, dust spend to.
Yeah. Yep. Try and stay under that $250 mark. And just another kind of side point on this one, it can be really confusing because when they report matters. So like you could go through and charge up a bunch of stuff and then pay it off 3 days later. But if they reported within that 3 days, it's going to look like you have all those charges on there.
So, but it matters if it's paid off. Have $450 on a $500 bank and then save me like $300 because Christmas came and you're not like in a bad place anymore.
Yeah, it's not like the end of the world if you break that. It's just something to be aware of.
Can you repeat what she said about open I did do?
Yeah, which part of it? Yeah, so open-ended credit, once you pay off an open-ended credit loan, think of credit cards, line of credits, it stays open. So you know it's open because once you pay it off, it doesn't have an end date. Closed-ended, once you reach that final payment, it's done. You own whatever that is, or you don't have to pay on whatever that thing was anymore. Yep. cars, mortgage, recreational vehicles, boats, RVs, any of that kind of stuff. All right, so we have a couple of tips to leave you with. I promise we're not done yet, so stick around, but some good tips here. Make sure to make those payments on time and set up auto payments if you can. We want to make sure we keep those credit cards open after we pay them off, unless they have annual fees. If they have annual fees, close them. We don't want to pay that credit card company that money. And finally, never max out our credit cards or leave them over limit. So I've got an activity for us. Before I get into explaining that though, what other questions do we have?
Any favorites again? You're supposed to have a myth for each of your points, right?
Yeah, let me see what you got here.
30 days for...
Oh, for the myths? Yeah. There's not one for every. No. Yeah. Great question, though.
I have a question about the mortgage, but...
Yes.
So you have mortgage to split?
Eventually, yes. But you don't just to put an application in. And we can find qualifications for you. We do have what's called a closed membership, but we partner with 9 of the 11 school districts in Colorado Springs. So if you work here or you have a kid that goes to any of the school districts, that would qualify you. You or anyone in your family has military history, retired or active duty. We got tons of ways to qualify people. Yeah, so don't let that hold you back. What's that? Oh, perfect, yeah. There we go. All right, so we have about 14 people in here. Let's see, maybe we break up into 4 groups. So we've got 4 each with 2 groups at 3. So around the room, we have different stations set up for everyone, and we've got the alphabet on there. What I want y'all to do is take some of these markers, and in your groups, what we're gonna do, actually, I'll just sample it here. So on here, we wanna do one word of something that you learned today. So I'm gonna write up here and say, for our C, it's credit. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna form a line behind us. You're gonna turn around and hand the marker off to whoever's behind you, and then go to the back of the line, and they're gonna come up and write a word. And we're gonna just see how many we can get throughout this. And I'm thinking once we go, we'll give you guys about 3 minutes or so. So let's just use the ones at the back of the room. I kind of over-prepared here. So if everyone could get out of their seats. So I think we are in our wrap-up section. Are there any more questions that we thought about while we were doing that exercise? Yes. More questions.
Because we are good parents, we never do anything illegal like start credit cards in our children's names. What is a good way to build credit for our children? So like when they're 18, like what is a good way to start? Like say you can't force a child to get a credit card at 18, but what would you do as a parent to be like, okay, this is an additional thing to help you on your credit journey?
I mean, like, can't you force them? No, I'm just kidding. It is a great point. So some of the things that you can do to give your kids kind of that head start, there's something called an authorized user that you can set up on your credit card. So you can set up your kids as that authorized user. They would not be responsible for the payments, but it does report to their credit history. Now, I say that, but be careful, because my dad had me as an authorized user on one of his credit cards, and the first time I pulled my credit score, I was like, 580, what is this? Because he had all that negative payment reporting. Yeah, so just be careful with that one, because it is still going to have the same impact. Now, the good news with that, they get themselves removed, it's wiped clean from their credit. So it can help build them and establish while they're working on getting their own.
What's the good amount of time? Like, say we did like a secured credit card, is that a safer bet? And then if like, do you think like 4 years, I mean, the duration of completing it so that they walk away, they have a 4-year history, something reasonable. You know, you should be buying a house unless you're like awesome or at the Great Recon. So it's, you know, do you think like what's a fair amount to like, I mean, I don't have a family dinner so well, but I want to be able to have some tools.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think like that's doable. That's reasonable.
I can't really say again, there's just so many different factors. About a year though, get some pretty good history. Excuse me. And yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Authorize into that, and then you use your core. I use a 13-month secured.
Yep. Also,
But also, part of that is because everything's so digital anymore. And so, like, instead of me having to go to an ATM when they needed, like, money for, like, a field trip for lunch or whatever, they just have, like, a $250 Capital One card that's already secure card, and they can just swipe it when they stop at Chick-fil-A. So,
I did Bass. I like that. I'll be fine to forever.
then how do you have to put perfect?
I mean, if it's in your budget, right? And I don't have time to really get into it. I really have a vendetta against secured credit cards. They're great for what they do, which is to start building credit. After you've built credit, get out of them.
I agree. Here for
All right, so to leave you all with here, I'm going to leave this up so you can kind of walk by on your way out. We've got some QR codes for different resources. I've got our Air Academy Resource Center on the left. I have Aventa's Resource Center on the right. Tons of good tools and options in there for y'all to go through. All of it's free. Go in there, explore whatever you need to do. The middle one in here is a link directly to our video banking where you can schedule an appointment with a financial counselor. Right now, you could go on there and schedule one for the future. But I think that is all I have. So thank you all. Oh, question.
The unions being different than banks. So why would I put my money in the credit union as opposed to like the high yield savings account that gives me like 3.5%?
So the first thing I'm going to say is always do what's right for you, regardless of where that is. If you can get a good interest rate somewhere, go get that. In general, banks have shareholders and stockholders that they are expecting profit to be turned and to be paid back for their investments. As credit unions, we have a not-for-profit structure. So as a member, you are that owner, and we have to better the company, give the money back to you, or...
And then how much do you typically get back?
I really wish I had that number on the top of my head. What I will say is, like our checking accounts, we have one that pays $9 a month just for using the debit card. We have another one that's a high interest rate that if you're keeping like 10,000 or more in, it's going to pay you more than $9 a month.
One of the other things too that I think is really important when we're talking about credit and we're talking about budgeting. One of the big differences with credit unions are that you're building a relationship and that you truly are a member owner. And where that plays out is like when you're looking to get a loan and you don't have the best credit, right? Or when you need some help to start credit. We don't just look at a number, and if the number doesn't fit, you don't fit. We have a partnership, a relationship. So if you're using us and you're putting money, you have a checking and a savings, and you've had that relationship for a while, that relationship goes a long way. I mean, I can't speak 100% for Air Academy, but I can speak to Like when we're looking at loans, I look at loans all day long. I actually speak to members and say, what's the situation? What happened? How do we help you through? I can tell you that banks, and for sure big banks, aren't doing that. So I think that is a big thing too, is that financial services across the board, I mean, it's very regulated industry. It's not like we have, all of these great things that nobody else has, but we have a lot of the same things. We can build products and services that fit your needs, and we can do things outside of the box, which most banks don't do. And we do usually have lower rates and better dividends. So, and we're just better.
Well, genuinely think about that. Have you ever seen a bank come in to do a presentation like this?
Here Counties again, like they get back to it. I've been with them since I was 16, so that's nearly 30 years. And they caught fraud on my accounts and it afforded card not allowed you. And it was zero. Well, here Academy does this up. I can't speak for everybody else. It's not very fair. But here Academy, you might draw the whole for events here. Like, I speak very highly of.
Cool. Great question. Anything else? All right, a couple of things. There is food back there. Please do not let that go to waste. Again, Little Henry's. Did I say that right? Howard's. Little Howard's. Start with an H. And then I think, Aisha, you had some things? Yes, we have some housekeeping stuff from Parents Challenge.